Aliens begged for help. They didn't know humans take war personally. Part 1. The desperate Plath sky burned orange and red above the Volari homeworld. Elder Mirith stood at the tall window of her council chamber and watched another city fall. The explosions looked like flowers blooming in the distance. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. "Elder, we must leave the capital," Councillor Tivan said behind her. His voice was calm, but his 4 eyes showed fear. "The Krath will be here within 2 days. Perhaps less." Mirith did not turn from the window. Her pale blue skin seemed gray in the light of the fires. "Where would we go, Tivan? They have surrounded our world. Their ships fill our sky like a black cloud." It had been 3 weeks since the Krath Dominion arrived. 3 weeks of death. The Volari were a peaceful people. They had no army, no weapons. They had believed that kindness and trade would protect them from the galaxy's dangers. They had been wrong. "The Council has sent their final answer," Tivan said quietly. He held up a small device that displayed the message. "They will not help us. The Krath are too powerful. No species wants to risk war with them." Mirith finally turned. Her face was tired. "So very tired. So we die alone. There is one other option." The voice came from the doorway. Keeper Soleth entered the room. She was young for a keeper of records, but her mind was sharp. "The humans." Tivan made a sound of disgust. "The humans? Those primitive creatures from the edge of known space? They have been part of the galactic community for only 50 years. What could they possibly do against the Krath?" "They fight," Soleth said simply. "I have studied their history. Their entire existence is war. They fight each other. They fight nature. They fight death itself. And they never stop." "Exactly my point," Tivan replied. "They are violent animals. The Council warned us about them. Inviting humans into our space would be like inviting a fire to save us from the cold." Elder Mirith looked at Soleth. "What do you know of them, Keeper? Tell me truly." Soleth pulled up records on her datapad. "They are young. Their bodies are weak compared to most species. They need sleep every day. They can die from simply falling down. And yet," she paused, "in their 50 years with the Council, 17 different species have tried to attack human colonies. All 17 failed. Not because humans had better technology. They did not. But because humans refused to lose. Refused to lose?" Tivan laughed bitterly. "That is not how war works. You cannot simply refuse to lose." "Humans do not seem to know this," Soleth answered. Mirith was silent for a long moment. Through the window, another explosion lit the distant horizon. Somewhere in that light, children were dying. Her people were dying. "Send the message," she said. Tivan stepped forward. "Elder, please, think about this. We know nothing about humans. We do not know what they will want in return. We do not know if they will even come. And if they do come, we do not know if they can be controlled. Look outside, Tivan." Mirith's voice was hard now. "The Krath are burning our world. Our children are being killed in the streets. The Council has abandoned us. We have no army, no weapons, no hope." She turned to face him directly. "What exactly do we have left to lose?" Tivan had no answer. "Send the message," Mirith repeated. "Send it to Earth." On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Hannah Choi was drinking her 3rd cup of coffee of the night. She worked at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station, a small building in the mountains of Korea. Her job was to listen to the stars. Most nights, she heard nothing but silence. Tonight was different. Her computer beeped. Then beeped again. A message was coming through. She set down her coffee and looked at the screen. The translation software was already working. The message was short. The voice behind it was clearly not human. It was high and musical, like bells ringing in the wind. But the words were clear enough. Please. We are dying. The Krath Dominion is destroying our world. The Galactic Council will not help us. We have nothing to offer you. No payment. No reward. We can only beg. Please. We need help. Anyone. Please. Hannah listened to the message 3 times. Then she made a call. 2 hours later, Admiral Sumanbeek stood in a conference room with 30 of Earth's most powerful people. Politicians, military leaders, scientists. They had all seen the message. They had all seen the images that came with it. The images showed a beautiful world covered in forests and lakes. They showed a gentle people with blue skin and kind eyes. And they showed those same people being killed by soldiers in black armor. The Krath were tall and covered in hard scales. They showed no mercy. We cannot get involved, one politician said. This is not our fight. The Krath have never threatened Earth. If we attack them, we will make enemies. They are killing civilians, Admiral Beek replied. His voice was quiet but firm. They are killing children. Alien children, another voice said. Sad, yes, but not our concern. The argument went back and forth for an hour. Some wanted to help. Some wanted to stay safe. Some did not care at all. Then the door opened. Captain Tae-Woo Park walked in. He was not supposed to be in this meeting. He did not care. Admiral, he said, I request permission to take my fleet to Valari space. Captain, this is not your decision to make, a politician began. No, Tae-Woo agreed. But it is my decision to volunteer. He looked around the room. I have 600 soldiers who have already volunteered with me. By morning, I expect that number to be 6,000. You can argue politics. We are going to save people. Admiral Beek studied the young captain's face. He saw no doubt there. No fear. Only certainty. You could die, the Admiral said. Yes. You could start a war. They already started a war. They started it when they killed innocents. The room was silent. Then Admiral Beek nodded slowly. Oh, Captain. And may God go with you. Across the galaxy, Elder Mirith received a reply. It was short. Just 5 words. We're coming. Hold on, she wept. For the first time in 3 weeks, she wept from hope instead of despair. Beside her, Counselor Givane watched the stars through the window. Somewhere out there, humans were coming. He should have felt relieved. Instead, he felt a cold fear in his stomach. You have invited predators to save us from predators, he said quietly. I pray we survive both. Mirith did not answer. She just held the message close to her chest and waited for the humans to arrive. Aliens begged for help. They didn't know humans take war personally. Part 2. The Arrival. The Krath. Dominion had conquered 43 species across 200 years. Warlord Draxon had personally led the destruction of 12 worlds. He had never known defeat. He had never known fear. When his sensors detected ships entering the system, he did not worry. He expected more refugees trying to escape. Or perhaps a small council peacekeeping force that would turn back the moment they saw his fleet. What he did not expect was what appeared. The sky above the Valari homeworld tore open. Ships poured through the hole in space like water from a broken dam. Not dozens, not even hundreds. The human fleet numbered over 400 vessels. They were smaller than Krath warships. Their designs were ugly and rough. But there were so many of them. On the surface, Keeper Soleth was monitoring the sky when the humans arrived. She dropped her datapad. It cracked on the floor, but she did not notice. Her 4 eyes were fixed on the screens. This is not a rescue mission, she whispered to herself. This is an invasion force. She had studied human history. She knew they were capable of violence. But seeing their fleet fill the sky was something else entirely. These were a people who had brought war to the stars themselves. In orbit. Captain Tae-Woo Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Hammer of Earth. Lieutenant Yoona Kim was at his side, studying tactical displays. Around them, crew members worked with calm efficiency. "The craft fleet is taking position," Yoona reported. "They outnumber us roughly 2-1. Their ships are bigger and better armed." "Understood," Tae-Woo said. His voice was flat and cold. "Open a channel to the enemy commander." The screen flickered. The face of warlord Draxon appeared. He was massive, covered in black scales, with red eyes that glowed like hot coals. When he saw the human, he smiled. His teeth were sharp as knives. "Little creature," Draxon said, "you are far from home. I admire your courage. Stupidity, but also courage." "I am Captain Park of the United Earth Fleet," Tae-Woo replied. "You will withdraw your forces from this system immediately. You will release all Valari prisoners. You will pay for the damage you have caused." Draxon laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. "You make demands of me? I have destroyed 100 fleets greater than yours. I have crushed 1,000 warriors stronger than you. What makes you think you can threaten me?" Tae-Woo's expression did not change. "We saw what you did. We saw the children. They saw the graves. And? They were weak. The weak exist to serve the strong. This is the way of the galaxy. Not anymore." Tae-Woo leaned forward slightly. "Leave now, or we will destroy you." Draxon's smile faded slightly. There was something in the human's eyes. Something he did not understand. No species had ever looked at him like this. Like he was already dead. "You are fools," Draxon said. "But I will enjoy breaking you." The screen went dark. Lieutenant Yoona looked at her captain. "Sir, their weapons are superior to ours. Their shields are stronger. Their ships are faster. How do we win this fight?" "We don't fight their way," Tae-Woo answered. "We fight our way." An hour later, Elder Mirith boarded the Hammer of Earth. She was escorted through metal corridors filled with human soldiers. They were smaller than she expected, softer. Many of them looked young enough to still be considered children by Valari standards, but their eyes were old, hard, full of purpose. She was brought to a meeting room where Captain Tae-Woo and Lieutenant Yoona waited. Both humans stood when she entered. A sign of respect. "Elder Mirith," Tae-Woo said. "Thank you for coming. I wanted to meet you before the battle, Captain Park." Mirith's voice trembled slightly. "I do not know how to thank you. I did not think anyone would answer our call." "We almost didn't," Yoona admitted. "There were many who wanted to stay home. To stay safe. Then why did you come?" Tae-Woo was quiet for a moment. Then he pulled up images on a screen. Pictures of Valari children lying in streets. Mass graves filled with bodies. A mother holding her dead baby. "Because of this," he said. "Because someone was hurting people who could not fight back. And someone asked us to help." Mirith stared at the images. She had seen them before. She had lived through them. But seeing humans react to them was different. She saw genuine anger in their faces. Genuine pain. "I do not understand," she said slowly. "We have nothing to offer you. No resources. No technology. No alliance that benefits you. Why risk your lives for strangers?" Lieutenant Yoona smiled. It was a sad smile. That is the part most species do not understand about us. We do not need a reason. We do not need payment. When we see suffering, we want to stop it. When we see evil, we want to fight it. It is simply who we are, but you could die. "Yes," Tae-Woo agreed. "Many of us will die today. We know this. We came anyway. Mirith felt tears forming in her eyes. In her entire life, she had never met beings so confusing, so terrifying, so beautiful. Outside the ship, the battle began. The Krath expected the humans to fight like every other species. Line up ships. Exchange fire. Withdraw when losses became too heavy. The humans did not do this. The first wave of human ships did not even try to fight. They accelerated straight toward the Krath fleet at maximum speed. The Krath gunners easily destroyed them. Ship after ship exploded in the void. Draxon laughed from his command chair. They are giving us target practice. This will be even easier than I thought. Then the destroyed ships reached the Krath lines. The human vessels had been loaded with explosives. Each burning wreck was a bomb. They crashed into Krath shields, exploding with tremendous force. 3 Krath warships lost their shields in the first minute. Before the Krath could recover, the second wave arrived. These ships were not empty. They were filled with soldiers. Boarding parties, hatches opened. Human fighters poured into Krath vessels through the weakened hulls. They carried guns and knives and explosives strapped to their bodies. They were not trying to win. They were trying to take as many Krath with them as possible. Draxon watched his forces fall into chaos. His soldiers were trained to fight armies. They were not trained to fight enemies who did not care if they lived or died. What are they doing? His second-in-command asked. This is madness. This is suicide. It is not suicide, Draxon said slowly. His voice had lost its confidence. It is sacrifice. They know they will die, and they do not care. On the surface, Keeper Soleth watched the battle through long-range sensors. She saw human ships ram Krath destroyers. She saw wounded soldiers drag themselves toward enemies with grenades in their hands. She saw a young human woman, her arm missing, continue fighting until she fell. Soleth had studied many species. She had seen courage before. She had seen determination, but she had never seen anything like this. They are not fighting for victory, she said to herself. They are fighting because they are angry, because they saw what was done to us, and they took it personally. In orbit, 3 Krath warships fell in 30 minutes. Then 5 more. The human fleet was being destroyed too, but they kept coming, wave after wave. Ship after ship, Warlord Draxon stared at the tactical display. For the first time in 200 years, he felt something cold in his stomach, something he barely recognized. What are they? His second-in-command asked again. Draxon had no answer. He only knew that the universe had changed. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. Aliens begged for help. They didn't know humans take war personally. Part 3. Personal. War Sergeant Dong-Ho Lee hit the ground running. The transport ship had barely touched the surface before he and his squad were moving. Around him, the city of Karath burned. Once it had been the second largest city on the Volari homeworld. Now it was a graveyard. Keep moving, Dong-Ho ordered through his helmet radio. Watch your corners. The Krath are still here. His squad was 12 soldiers. Mostly young, mostly scared. But they moved with purpose, covering each other as they advanced through the ruined streets. Private Ji-Hai Moon was first to find them. The graves. Sergeant, she called out, her voice tight. You need to see this. Dong-Ho jogged over to her position. He stopped. For a long moment, he could not speak. The pit was 30 meters wide. It was filled with bodies. Volari bodies. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. They had been thrown in without care. Without respect. Like garbage dot among the bodies, Dong-Ho saw small shapes. Children. Their eyes were still open. They had been looking at the sky when they died. Sir? Ji-Hai's voice broke the silence. What do we do? Dong-Ho pulled his eyes away from the grave. His hands were shaking. Not from fear, from something deeper, something darker. "We find every Krath soldier in the city," he said. His voice was very quiet, very calm. "And we make them answer for this." The squad nodded. No one needed more orders than that dot in orbit. The battle continued. Captain Taewoo had lost 47 ships. The Krath had lost 23. By numbers, the Krath were winning. But something had changed. General Vakris, commander of the Krath ground forces, contacted Warlord Draxon from his command ship. His face was troubled. "Warlord, we have a problem." "I can see the problem," Draxon replied sharply. "The humans fight like rabid animals. They throw themselves at our ships without caring if they live. It is worse than that." Vakris pulled up tactical data. "Our soldiers on the surface are reporting unusual human behavior." "Unusual how?" "They do not surrender. Ever. We have captured wounded humans. They fight until their bodies stop working." One soldier with both legs destroyed dragged himself 300 meters to reach a Krath patrol. "He killed 2 of our warriors before we stopped him." Draxon was silent. "There is more," Vakris continued. "Our psychological warfare units report that humans cannot be broken through torture. Standard methods do not work. They scream. They cry. But they do not give up information. They do not beg for mercy. They just endure until they die. Impossible. Every species breaks eventually, not humans." Vakris leaned closer to the screen. "Warlord, I have commanded forces against 60 different species. I have never seen anything like this. These creatures do not fight for victory. They do not fight for survival. They fight because they are angry. They saw what we did to the Volari, and they took it personally." In her research chamber, Keeper Solith worked through the night. She had accessed every record about humans in the Galactic database. What she found terrified her. Humans had existed for only 300,000 years. By galactic standards, they were newborns. And yet their entire history was war. They fought over land. They fought over beliefs. They fought over ideas. They fought over resources they did not even need. Some of their wars had killed millions of their own kind. And they kept going. But that was not the terrifying part. The terrifying part was why they fought. Other species fought for survival, for expansion, for dominance. Logical reasons, practical reasons. Humans fought for revenge, for honor, for abstract concepts like freedom and justice. They fought for people they had never met. They died for strangers. Solith found records of something called World War II, a human conflict that killed over 70 million of their own species. In that war, humans had formed groups called resistance movements. Small bands of fighters who knew they could not win, who knew they would probably die. They fought anyway, because it was right. She found records of a battle called Thermopylae. 300 human warriors against an army of hundreds of thousands. They all died, but they held their position long enough to save others. She found records of individual humans throwing themselves on explosives to save their friends, flying burning aircraft into enemy ships, standing in front of machines designed to crush them, refusing to move. "They are not rational," she whispered to herself. "They do not calculate victory. They only care about what is right, and they will die for it." She looked up at the burning sky. Somewhere up there, humans were dying for her people. Strangers who had never met a Volari before 3 weeks ago, who would never benefit from this war, who had simply heard a cry for help and answered. On the flagship, Lieutenant Yuna presented her plan to Captain Taewoo. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was exactly what they needed. "Direct assault on Draxon's command ship," she explained. "A small team breaches the hull while our fleet keeps the other ships busy. We reach the bridge. We killed the warlord. Without him, the craft command structure falls apart. The chances of survival? Tae-woo asked. Less than 20%. And if we fail? Then the fleet continues fighting until the craft are destroyed, or we are all dead. Either way, we do not stop. Tae-woo studied the tactical display. The plan made no sense by conventional military standards. No commander would approve such a mission. The risks were too high. The cost was too great, but they were not fighting a conventional war. They were fighting a personal one. Approved, he said. I will lead the assault team myself. No, Yuna shook her head. You are needed here to command the fleet. I will lead the team. Yuna, captain. She met his eyes. Someone has to kill the monster. Let me be that someone. In the ruins of Kurith, Sergeant Dong-ho's squad found the craft patrol. There were 30 of them. Giant, armored soldiers carrying weapons that could cut through steel. The squad had 12 humans. Dong-ho did not hesitate. Attack. They hit the craft from 3 directions at once. Grenades exploded among the enemy ranks. Rifles fired in continuous bursts. Private Ji-hai took down 2 craft warriors before a blade cut across her shoulder. She kept shooting. The fight lasted 8 minutes. When it ended, 23 craft soldiers lay dead. The squad had lost 4 members. Dong-ho stood over the bodies of the enemy. His breathing was heavy. His armor was covered in blood, some of it human, some of it craft. Sergeant, one of his soldiers said, there are more patrols in the city. We cannot defeat them all. Then we die fighting. Dong-ho reloaded his weapon. Those children in that pit did not get to fight. We fight for them. No one argued. They moved deeper into the city. In her council chamber, Elder Mirith received reports from across her world. Humans were fighting everywhere, dying everywhere. They were losing soldiers by the hundreds, and they kept coming. She did not understand. She had asked for help, hoping for a few ships, maybe a few hundred soldiers. Instead, humanity had sent an army that fought like it had a personal stake in the outcome. Dr. Hannah Choi found her staring at the reports. The human scientist looked tired but determined. Elder, Hannah said, you should rest. How can I rest? Your people are dying for us. Hannah sat down beside her. Yes, they are. And they chose to do so. But why? I keep asking, and I never understand the answer. Why do humans die for strangers? Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. When I was a child, there was a fire in my building. A firefighter I had never met ran into the flames to save me. He died before reaching me. Another firefighter finished the rescue and carried me out. I never knew either of their names. I do not understand. Neither do I not really. Hannah smiled sadly. But that is what humans do. We run into fires. We fight monsters. We die for people we do not know. Because it is the right thing to do. Because someone needed help. Because we cannot look at suffering and do nothing. Mirith felt tears on her face again. Your people are beautiful and terrible. Yes, Hannah agreed. We are both. Outside, the assault on Draxon's ship began. Lieutenant Yuna led her team into the heart of the beast. And somewhere in the darkness, the warlord finally understood what fear meant. Aliens begged for help. They didn't know humans take war personally. Part 4. The warlord falls. Lieutenant Yuna Kim moved through the dark corridors of Draxon's flagship. Her assault team had started with 20 soldiers. After breaching the hull, they were down to 14. After the first firefight, 11. Now, as they approached the command deck, she had 7 left. 7 humans against the most feared warship in the Krath Dominion. Contact ahead, whispered Corporal Min-Soo Han. His scanner showed heat signatures around the next corner. Looks like 12, maybe 15 guards. We go through them, Una said. Fast and quiet until we cannot be quiet anymore. Then fast and loud. They moved like shadows. The Krath guards never saw them coming. The first 3 fell to knives before anyone could raise an alarm. The 4th managed to shout. Then the corridor exploded into violence. Una fired her rifle in short bursts, dropping 2 Krath soldiers. A blade came at her from the side. She ducked, felt it slice through her shoulder armor, and shot the attacker in the face. Blood sprayed across the walls. Human blood. Krath blood. It all looked the same in the emergency lighting. When the fight ended, she had 5 soldiers left. Her shoulder wound was deep, but she could still move her arm. That was enough. Keep moving, she ordered. On the bridge of his ship, Warlord Draxon watched the intruders approach through security cameras. His guards fell one by one. The humans kept coming. Always coming. Seal the bridge, he commanded. Bring every guard we have. Warlord, there are no more guards. His second-in-command's voice shook. The boarding teams have killed them all. Draxon stared at the screen. The lead human was a small female. She was bleeding from multiple wounds. One arm hung at her side, useless. She should have been dead already. She was still moving forward. What are these creatures? Draxon whispered that he had conquered worlds. He had destroyed fleets. He had killed millions. And now he was being hunted through his own ship by a handful of bleeding mammals. Outside, the battle raged on. Captain Tae Wu commanded the human fleet from the Hammer of Earth. They had lost over 100 ships now. The Krath had lost 60. The numbers were still not in humanity's favor, but something had shifted. The Krath were hesitating. Tae Wu could see it in their movements. Ships that should have pressed attacks were holding back. Formations that should have been aggressive were defensive. The Krath were no longer trying to win. They were trying to survive. The enemy morale is breaking, reported his tactical officer. Their communications show confusion. Many captains are questioning whether to continue the fight. Then we push harder. Tae Wu pointed at the display. All ships advance. Do not let them recover. Do not let them think. Make them feel our anger. The human fleet surged forward. Damaged ships that should have retreated continued fighting. Vessels with failing systems used their last power to ram enemy cruisers. Every human fought like they had nothing to lose, because they had seen the children in the graves. They had seen the burning cities. They had seen what the Krath did to innocent people, and they had decided that this evil would end today, no matter the cost. On Draxon's flagship, Una reached the bridge doors. 2 of her remaining soldiers worked on cutting through the reinforced metal. The others watched the corridors, waiting for counterattacks that never came. Almost through, Corporal Minsung reported. His hands were steady despite the blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. Una nodded. Her vision was starting to blur from blood loss. She had maybe 30 minutes before her body gave out completely. She needed 15 to finish this dot. The door fell inward with a crash. The bridge of a Krath warship was huge. Dark metal walls covered with screens showing the battle outside. Dozens of crew members at their stations. And at the center, standing before a throne made of bones, was Warlord Draxon. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall. His black scales seemed to absorb the light. His red eyes burned with hatred and something else. Something Una recognized. Fear. So, Draxon said, "The little mammals have come to die in my presence. I suppose I should feel honored." Una's soldiers spread out, covering the Krath crew with their weapons. No one moved. The air was thick with tension. "Warlord Draxon," Una said. Her voice was calm despite her injuries. "You are charged with the murder of civilians, the destruction of cities, The killing of children. How do you answer? Draxon laughed. The sound was hollow. Answer? I answer to no one. I am the warlord of the Krath Dominion. I have crushed 100 species beneath my feet. Who are you to judge me? I am Lieutenant Yuna Kim of the United Earth Fleet. She raised her rifle. And I am your executioner. You? Draxon spread his arms. Look at you. Small, weak, bleeding from a dozen wounds. You can barely stand. What makes you think you can defeat me? Yuna smiled. It was not a pleasant smile, because I do not need to defeat you. I just need to kill you. She fired. The shot hit Draxon's knee. He roared in pain and stumbled. She fired again, hitting the other knee. The warlord fell, crashing to the deck like a toppled statue. Guards! He screamed. Kill them. Kill them all. The Krath crew moved toward their weapons. Yuna's soldiers opened fire. Bodies fell. Screams filled the bridge. But Yuna did not watch. She walked toward the fallen warlord, stepping over bodies. Her rifle steady despite her failing strength. Draxon tried to rise. His shattered knees could not support him. He was forced to look up at the small human standing over him. This is impossible, he snarled. I have never lost. I cannot lose. Not to you. Not to insects. You did not lose to us, Yuna said softly. You lost to yourself. You made this war personal. You killed children. You burned homes. You thought we would see your cruelty and be afraid. Instead, we saw your cruelty and became angry. She knelt down, bringing her face close to his. Her blood dripped onto his scales. Humans do not fight for territory. We do not fight for resources. We fight because someone was hurting people who could not protect themselves. And we take that very, very personally. What do you want? Draxon's voice had changed. The arrogance was gone. Only fear remained. I will give you anything. Wealth, planets, power. Name your price. My price? Yuna stood up. My price is justice for every child you killed. For every family you destroyed. For every innocent life you took because you thought no one would stop you. She pressed her rifle against his forehead. Someone should have stopped you long ago. Today, we do. The shot echoed through the bridge. When it was over, Yuna activated her communication device. Her voice was weak but clear. Captain Park, the warlord is dead. The flagship is ours. Across the fleet, humans heard the message. They cheered. They cried. They fought even harder. Captain Taewoo broadcast to all Krath ships. His voice was cold as space itself. Your warlord is dead. Your war is over. Leave this system now. If you ever return to Valari space, we will not stop at your fleet. We will find your homeworld. We will find your families. And we will make sure no one ever forgets what happens when you hurt innocents. The Krath fleet broke. Ships turned and ran. For the first time in the history of the Dominion, they fled from a battlefield. General Vekris, watching from a surviving cruiser, sent one final message to his remaining forces. Retreat. All ships retreat. And send word to the Dominion. The humans are not to be touched. Not their worlds. Not their allies. Not anyone they care about. Ever. On the surface of the Valari homeworld, Sergeant Dongho watched the Krath shuttles lift off. The enemy was running. After days of fighting, dying, and bleeding, they were finally running. He did not cheer. He did not celebrate. He just sat down among the ruins and thought about the soldiers he had lost. The friends who would never go home. Beside him, Private Ji-Hai Moon held her wounded shoulder. She was crying. Not from pain. From relief. We did it, she said. We actually did it, yeah. Dongho's voice was empty. We did. In orbit, Lieutenant Una collapsed on the deck of the conquered bridge. Her team gathered around her, calling for medical support. Someone was putting pressure on her wounds. Someone else was telling her to stay awake. She smiled up at them. Her vision was fading, but she could see stars through the viewport. The same stars she had watched as a child, dreaming of adventures. "Told you we don't lose," she whispered. "We just don't stop." Then the darkness took her. Aliens begged for help. They didn't know humans take war personally. Part 5. The galaxy watches. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Valari Prime. The skies no longer burned. The graves had been marked with proper monuments. And slowly, very slowly, the world was healing. Elder Marith walked through the streets of what had once been the city of Karath. Buildings were being rebuilt. Markets were reopening. Children were playing again, their laughter filling spaces that had known only screams. Beside her walked Dr. Hana Choi. The human scientist had refused to leave when the battle ended. She had stayed to help with the recovery. Many humans had. "It is strange," Marith said. "Before your people came, I thought we would never hear children laugh again. I thought our world was ending." "It almost did," Hana replied. "But it didn't. That's what matters now." They passed a group of Valari workers lifting construction materials. Among them, human soldiers helped carry heavy loads. Sergeant Dong-Ho Lee was directing the work, his gruff voice somehow gentle when speaking to the Valari civilians. "Sergeant Lee could have gone home," Marith observed. "Why does he stay?" Hana smiled. "He said there was still work to do, that the dead would want him to help rebuild what was destroyed. He lost friends here." "Yes, many of them." Marith watched the human sergeant lift a beam that should have been too heavy for one person. He carried it to where it was needed, set it down, and immediately went back for another. He had been working like this for 3 months. Always moving, always building. As if stopping would force him to think about everything he had lost. In the Valari Medical Center, Lieutenant Una Kim was finally well enough to walk. Her wounds had been severe. The doctors said she should have died on that bridge. But humans, they had learned, did not die easily. She stood at the window of her room, looking at the city below. Captain Taewoo Park entered behind her. "You should still be resting," he said. "I've rested enough." Una turned to face him. Her arm was still in a support device. Scars marked her face and neck. But her eyes were clear, strong. "When do we leave?" "The transports depart next week. Most of our forces are going home." Taewoo paused. "You've earned the right to go with them. You killed a warlord. You're a hero." "I don't feel like a hero." Una looked back at the window. "I feel like someone who survived when others didn't. That's what heroes always feel like." Across the galaxy, in the great chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives from 100 species watched recordings of the battle. They had seen wars before. They had seen violence. But they had never seen anything like this. The recording showed human ships ramming craft destroyers. Human soldiers fighting with missing limbs. A small female human standing over the body of the most feared warlord in known space. "What do we do about this?" asked the representative from the Karathi Federation. His tentacles twitched nervously. "The humans have shown themselves capable of extreme violence. They crossed the galaxy to fight a war that was not theirs. What happens when they decide to fight us?" "They will not." Keeper Soleth stood before the council. She had been invited to share her research on human behavior. "I have studied them extensively. Humans are not conquerors. They do not seek territory or resources through force. Then what do they seek?" Soleth considered her words carefully. "Justice. Protection of the weak. Punishment of the cruel. They fight for ideas, not possessions." She pulled up data on her display. After the battle, humans asked for nothing. No payment. No territory. No political power. They simply helped us rebuild and prepared to go home. That makes no sense, another representative said. Every species wants something. Nothing is free. For humans, the reward is the act itself. Soeth looked around the chamber. They came because we asked. They fought because they saw suffering. They stayed because there was work to do. Their payment is knowing they did what was right. The council was silent. They did not understand. They could not understand. But they knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had changed Dodd in his private quarters. Captain Taewoo received a communication from Admiral Beak on Earth. The old man's face showed pride and sorrow in equal measure. The UN wants to give you a medal, Beak said. The biggest medal they have. Ceremonies, speeches, the whole thing. What about the soldiers we lost? They will be honored too. Monuments, memorials. Their names will be remembered. Tae-woo nodded slowly. That's good. They deserve to be remembered. He paused. Admiral, was it worth it? We lost over 200 ships. Thousands of soldiers. For a species we had never met. Beak was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, 3 days ago, I received a message from the Valari government. They wanted to inform us that every Valari child now learns about Earth in their schools. They learn about humans who came from far away to save strangers. They learned that when they called for help, someone answered. Is that worth the lives we lost? I don't know, Beak admitted. But I know that if we had not gone, we would have had to live with that choice forever. And I know that somewhere in this galaxy, children are alive because of what we did. That has to mean something. On the surface of Valari Prime, a memorial had been built. It stood in the center of the largest mass grave, now covered with flowers and trees. The monument was simple, a stone pillar with names carved into it. Human names. Valari names. All the dead, remembered together. Sergeant Dong-ho brought his squad to see it before they left. They stood in silence, reading the names of friends who would never go home. Private Ji-Hai Moon placed her hand on the stone. Do you think they knew? She asked. When they died, do you think they knew it mattered? I hope so, Dong-ho answered. I hope they knew that every child who survives on this world survives because of them. At the spaceport, Elder Merith came to say goodbye to the human forces. Thousands of soldiers were boarding transports. They looked tired, wounded. Many would carry scars for the rest of their lives. She found Dr. Hannah preparing to leave with the others. You are going home, Merith said. It was not a question, for now. Hannah smiled. But I'll come back. There's still so much to learn. So much to help with. Will the humans ever understand what you have done for us? Probably not. Most people on Earth will forget about this war within a year. They have their own problems to worry about. Their own lives to live. That seems sad. Maybe. Hannah shrugged. But that is also what makes it meaningful. We did not help you to be remembered. We helped you because it was right. The fact that most humans will never know or care about this war does not make the war less important. Merith embraced the human. It was an awkward gesture. Their bodies were very different. But the meaning was clear. Thank you, Merith whispered. For everything. On Earth, Admiral Beak stood before the United Nations Council. The chamber was full. Every nation wanted to hear about the war. About the victory. About what came next. We've been asked why we keep answering these calls, Beak said. Why we spend lives and resources on strangers. Why we fight wars that are not ours. He looked around the room. Old faces and young faces. Skeptics and believers. People who had supported the war and people who had opposed it. The answer is simple. Because that is who we are. When someone is hurting, we want to help. When someone is being bullied, we want to stop it. When someone calls out in the darkness, we want to answer. He straightened his shoulders. The galaxy is starting to understand something about humanity. If you hurt innocents, we will come. If you prey on the weak, we will find you. If you ask for help, we will answer. And we will take it personally. Far across the galaxy, on the border of Craft Dominion space, new defenses were being built. Not to prepare for attack, but to protect against one. The Krath had learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans were small. Humans were weak. Humans needed sleep and food and water to survive. But humans were also the most terrifying species in the known universe, not because of their weapons, not because of their technology, but because they cared. They cared about strangers. They cared about justice. They cared about right and wrong. And when humans cared about something, they would cross the galaxy. They would fight impossible odds. They would die by the thousands, but they would never, ever stop. In the darkness of space, a new signal was being transmitted. Another species, another desperate plea, another cry for help from someone who had nowhere else to turn. On Earth, Dr. Hana Choi had barely been home for a week when her console lit up with an urgent message. She read it twice. Then she smiled sadly. Here we go again. She forwarded the message to Admiral Beak, knowing what his answer would be before she even sent it. The universe was vast and full of suffering, and humanity would answer every call. Because that was who they were. Because someone was always asking for help, and humans took war personally.